For the Rural Radio Network, I'm Joe Gangwish at the Cattlemen's summer meeting going on in Denver. Going to visit with Phil Seng. He's with the U.S. Meat Export Federation, President and CEO. And Phil, let's talk about some things that you folks are working on, certainly. And let's start with TPA. That's certainly an exciting development.
Well, I think TPA was very important for us as far as our ability. Really, if you take a look at TPA, as arduous as it was in the House and Senate, frankly, it's kind of a referendum, if you look at it this way, on TPP. And we see TPP as being very important to the cattle industry. I think primarily the reason I say that is some of our competitors namely Australia, have a duty advantage of over 10% on frozen and 8% on chilled. And the only way that we're going to level that playing field is if we get TPP. So they concluded after 5 years of negotiating with the Japanese their own EPA, their Economic Partnership Agreement. And we need to catch up with them because they have a weaker currency. Normally their prices are less than ours. And obviously with a weaker Australian dollar, less prices, and also a favorable duty, they're a very strong competitor in the Japanese market and also in some other markets around Asia.
Once we sit down and start working on TPP, what are some things that you want to focus on?
Well, I think with TPP, as we look at it right now, it looks like one of the final sessions will be in Maui at the end of this month. It looks like for the most part, most of the chapters have been completed. I think with the Japanese, the issue has been rice, obviously, which has always been an issue with Japan and with Korea and with China. But frankly, the other markets that are probably the looming markets that are out there right now are basically Canada, where it comes to dairy and poultry, and then Malaysia has an issue with human trafficking. So we're really pleased to see this week that Vietnam has come around as far as market access. And when we look at the Mekong 5 and we look at the ASEAN area, we have some pretty good deals as we look at this as far as our ability to be a factor, especially when it comes to the duties and the market access. So for the most part, the sooner we can get TPP passed, the better it's going to be for the beef industry.
With what's going on with the WTO, what's the export climate now with Canada and Mexico?
Well, I think with the WTO, that's always a heavier lift, if you will, because there's about 170 countries in the WTO, and trying to get 12 countries to agree on something is something. But 170 countries, it's very difficult. But I think that's the spine, or that's the baseline for everything. Everything is predicated on the WTO. For example, the sanitary and final sanitary issues, what they call the SPS, all that's predicated on the WTO. So even though you see TPP and you see TTIP and you see all these other acronyms that are out there, most of that is all predicated on the WTO. So it serves a very useful purpose at this point in time. And of course, for dispute settlement resolutions, the WTO is a basis for that as well.
What are some other hot spots around the world that you guys are excited about exporting U.S. Meat products?
Well, I think this year North Asia has been a good performer for us. As you know, we've been challenged with our prices, paucity of cattle. And then also this increased competition, both from private companies who are competing, but also the governments, as I mentioned, that that's a new kind of competition when the playing field is not level, and these governments do garner an advantage. So, but in spite of that, Korea is up this year about 3% on value, maybe about 2% in volume. This is very important for us. It's pretty much the same in Japan. So when you consider the challenges that we've had and the price, etc., we're doing quite well in those markets, but we sure got to get TPP passed.
Phil Seng, he is the President and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. We're here at the Cattlemen's summer meeting going on in Denver. I'm Joe Gangwish.